So let's put a couple saddles on. You guys tell me what you think.
Okay.
There are still saddle fitters who fit horses standing still and never watch you ride.
Yep.
So you really need to see the horse moving and see if they can do all of these things and lift their backs. So you've got to get both a dynamic and a static fitting. Thank you very much. Next saddle. Anyone? Somebody pick one. Because the idea is for you guys to be able to tell if your saddle fits.
This?
So let's look at the gullet.
If you're a jumper,
Is it a medium tree,
Can you
Darcy?
put 4 fingers in there?
medium tree.
What's up?
All the way.
It looks,
But that's really, really
it's
important.
pretty
You can get 4
narrow
fingers all the way
in the back.
All the way back. So
And he does
the
go
shape-
really well with this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we saw.
Yeah.
The shape of this allows this whole wither to expand, and this trapezius muscle can expand in there. And you get your 2 fingers, and then if you look at your shoulder angle, it's
Right in line.
This piping compared to this shoulder is parallel. See that? So the problem with if it's you'd think too wide would be okay. I'm blocking the camera. But if it's too wide, you're just not taking advantage of your whole saddle support area, dispersing the weight. So that's why you don't want it too wide in the shoulder angle either. So this actually is exactly parallel to his shoulder angle, which is why I didn't have to do anything to this saddle. They change, the way they change as they start to come up and lift their backs is the tree points actually start to need to be wider, but the shoulder angle steepens. Like this is your tree width. This is your shoulder angle. And they're 2 different things. So you've got to have that shoulder angle right, but you've also got to have the width for that trapezius to come up. So what we find is with this training, most of the time what I see is the tree needs to be wider, but the angle gets steeper. The horse will get steeper and the withers will come up. Like, didn't you say your horse is taller now?
I swear she's taller than
My
she's
horse
ever
got
been.
about 1.5 inches. Her withers came up. She was this little mutton withered thing. But they came up and she got like this. It was really, really cool to watch.
Yeah.
So when they get out of shape, they'll start to get back flatter,
Yep.
flatter like that again.
Maybe
So-
that's why I don't think my saddle fits anymore, because she's
Change.
She's
she all of a
changed.
sudden looks like 6 feet tall.
Well,
I stand
right.
next to her and I think, oh, when did this happen? And
And if your tree didn't change, how can it still fit?
right,
If she
that's
changed.
what I think my issue is.
That's what we've all done. So we're just going to talk about saddle fit. Like this whole clinic has been about the horse stepping under the business head hind to lift his back, and then the energy just comes out the front. And what I just want to show you is a couple of things that you'll be able to tell if your saddle is either helping your horse do that or making it harder for your horse. So I've heard it said that a saddle can be your horse's best friend or his worst enemy. And it actually is very true. It's so important. So that's about how big
There he goes.
his good boy.
Yeah, he's
It's
figuring it
about
out.
what it is. That's just about how big his shoulder blade is. And the important thing to know about the shoulder blade is this whole top section of it right here. This is cartilage here. That's not even bone right there. So horses don't have collarbones like we do. When you put your arm out, your shoulder blade comes forward. When the horse puts their foreleg out, their shoulder blade actually comes back. So it's sort of like this is his shoulder. When he steps out, it moves like this. And if you were to take this leg and put it out there, you would see that the shoulder blade can come back really far, like inches. So what we really need is we need the saddle, whatever saddle he has, we need the angle of the saddle to allow room for the shoulder blade to come under. Because if the saddle is fit here to the withers behind and it sits like this on him, he's going to be hitting a steel tree with this cartilage. So cartilage against steel, horses can actually get this cartilage chipped off and it doesn't grow back. So that's why this shoulder angle is so important, that the tree be either shaped sort of rounded like this and wide enough so that this shoulder blade can come right under the saddle. And if your saddle fits like that, you can bring the saddle pretty far up because the shoulder blade can go right under it. So they'll be able to move like this, and we'll come back. You'll notice that if the saddle is too tight, there'll be be kind of short-strided like this. You can really see the difference then when you put a saddle on like this, and all of a sudden you can, because it's sort of like we're asking him to work out, but it would be like me asking you to work out, but I'm going to stick my knee in your back and make you do your workout. I mean, that's really what it can feel like to them. So and also lots of horses, the one shoulder might be a little uneven, so then one shoulder might be hitting that tree if it's not giving him enough room, and they can look lame, and that's that bridle lameness. That can happen because, like, the one that's kind of that look. But if you see a horse like trotting, a lot of times it's because he's getting hit right here every time he takes the stride. So you want that shoulder angle of your saddle to allow for this shoulder blade to come back. So that's one really important thing about your saddle. We're going to put a couple saddles on. You guys can decide if they fit or not. So now we have this other part up here. Along the spine, over the spine, and on either side of the spine are tendons and ligaments. There's no muscle up here. This is not muscle. His muscle, and you guys can come up afterwards and feel this for yourself. It's kind of hard to feel, but he's got a big longissimus muscle here. And it stops right about here. You'll feel there's kind of a little ledge right here. That's where it becomes tendons and ligaments. And now this isn't where he's all to go against. That's tendons and ligaments up there. So if I feel that on both sides of him, I go from here and I come over here and do it. That's how big his gullet needs to be in his saddle. Because if the panels are too close together, you see like the narrow gullets, then you're putting pressure on tendons and ligaments instead of on muscle. And these can get really inflamed, and that's when you see them drop away. They'll drop away from the saddle and hollow their backs, which is the exact opposite thing of what we want them to do. We want them to come up like that. So you really need a wide gullet all the way back. You know those old saddles that they start out halfway okay, but then they come down to almost
There might
a
even
point?
be one there, I'm not sure.
Maybe we'll get to see that. How is he going to bend? Because then when he tries to bend, he's really got your weight right on tendons and ligaments back here. So that's why it really needs to be able to turn your saddle upside down, and depending on the horse, but usually it's about 4 fingers, you should be able to get all the way through on your saddle. So I'll tell you about saddle length, which is another very important one. He's got these thoracic vertebrae up here, and they each have a rib attached. We all know that. Then when you get to the last thoracic vertebrae, the thing to know is the lumbar vertebrae are a completely different shape. They immediately change. Instead of being nice and flat with ribs attached, they look like this. And they have these very fragile little wings of bone on them that sometimes even stick up a little bit. So we have to find where that last thoracic vertebra is, and we don't want any weight to go beyond that. Because and I'm going to show you how to find it so you can all find it on your own horses. But if the saddle were to go back here, we call this the bucking zone because he wants to get that off. They really don't like it. They get their kidneys right under there, mares have ovaries. This is very sensitive, so if you notice, another thing you might notice if your saddle's too long is, you know how they have to kind of round to go into the canter? They won't want to canter. Or they'll forebeat at the canter. That's another good sign to always check your length because they can't lift up under. They can't lift it because you're on it at all. So how would we find that? Well, we can see its rib and we can follow it, but it curves. You have to remember it curves. And it's going to disappear under this big muscle, this big longissimus muscle is really thick. It's a great saddle support area. So these ribs are going to curve under, disappear under the longissimus muscle and end up right about there. And a really easy way, nobody knows why this works, but is if you can find the way your hair swirls on your horse, you know how they all have this line here? If you follow this line, chalk's not working very well, is it? No. But if you follow the line of where the hairs come together and go straight up, you don't curve it back, go straight up, you're going to end up in about the same place. So that's as far back as you want your saddle to go, and it's different on every horse. You're always safe following this hairline. on your horse. So you can always tell just by doing that. So we don't want the saddle to go beyond there on him. That's going to be another one. Another thing is his rib heads, where the ribs come out from under this nice thick muscle. Now right about here. This isn't a big deal with most English saddles, but sometimes Western saddles come down here. You just don't want weight on the ribs themselves. But if we start right about here, and we draw a line, right about here, this is really important right here, because this is where his trapezius muscle comes, and it goes like that, and a bunch of other big muscles too. And what we're all about, as you've seen all weekend, is we're trying to get them to come up with their backs, and when they step under and the energy comes out like that, this needs to expand. Anytime a horse stretches, this will expand. So if the saddle's sitting on this and he's hitting a saddle every time, what you'll see is they'll kind of go down and up, come down and come up, and like they're trying to stretch, but they really can't. They need to have no pressure here at all. There's also a place right in here where the nerves come together. That's just a negative reflex point, and that's what stallions do to immobilize the mare. So the last thing you want to do, that's what they do. You don't want to immobilize the horse and get them to drop their backs and stand still. That's like the opposite. So this triangle, we really don't want anything. It really needs to be able to expand as he goes down into the stretch. So if you find that your horse is just kind of going like that, which I think we saw a little bit of, this would be, if it's pinching here, sitting here like this, he should have just a lot of room right in there. This area right here.
The red horse.
We want our saddles. Yes, I can see that. He's being a good boy. There, the shock's working out. That's a really good area for all your weight to be evenly dispersed in this certain amount of square inches that he has. So if your saddle sits in here, and you've got a wide enough gullet, and the shoulder blade is up here, and you've got an angle so that your shoulder blade can go under, and you've got plenty of room so there's no pressure in here, then your horse can move freely. Your horse can lift his back, and your saddle will actually really help your horse. So you can see why, if any of these things are wrong, he's going to have a really hard time. So let's put a couple saddles on, and you guys tell me what you think.
Okay.
There are still saddle fitters who fit horses standing still and never watch you ride.
Yep.
So you really need to see the horse moving and see if they can do all of these things and lift their backs. So you've got to get both a dynamic and a static fitting. Thank you very much. Next saddle, anyone? Somebody pick one. Because the idea is for you guys to be able to tell if your saddle fits. So let's look at the gullet.
If you're a jumper,
Is it a medium tree,
Can
Darcy?
you put 4 fingers in there?
medium tree.
What's up?
All the way. 4
Looks-
fingers. But that's really, really
It's
important.
pretty
You can get 4
narrow
fingers all the way
in the back.
All the way back. So
And he
the
does go really,
shape-
really, really well with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We saw.
Yeah.
The shape of this allows this whole wither to expand, and this trapezius muscle can expand in there. And you get your 2 fingers, and then if you look at your shoulder angle, it's
right in line.
this piping compared to this shoulder is parallel. See that? So the problem with if it's you'd think too wide would be okay. I'm blocking the camera. But if it's too wide, you're just not taking advantage of your whole saddle support area, dispersing the weight. So that's why you don't want it too wide in the shoulder angle either. So this actually is exactly parallel to his shoulder angle, which is why I didn't have to do anything to this saddle. So the way they change as they start to come up and lift their backs is the tree points actually start to need to be wider, but the shoulder angle steepens. Like this is your tree width. This is your shoulder angle. And they're 2 different things. So you've got to have that shoulder angle right, but you've also got to have the width for that trapezius to come up. So what we find is with this training, most of the time what I see is the tree needs to be wider, but the angle gets steeper. The horse will get steeper and the withers will come up. Like, didn't you say your horse is taller now?
I swear she's taller than
My
she
horse
ever
got
been.
about 1.5 inches. Her withers came up. She was this little mutton wither thing. but they came up and she got like this. It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So when they get out of shape, they'll start to get back flatter,
Yep.
flatter like that again.
Maybe
So-
that's why I don't think my saddle fits anymore, because she's
Change.
She's
she all of a
changed.
sudden looks like 6 feet tall.
Well,
I stand
right.
next to her and I think, oh, when did this happen?
And if your tree didn't change, how can it still fit?
Right.
If she
That's
changed.
what I think my issue is.
That's what we've all been through.